We are told all systems are go for the launch later today of the Soviet Space Shuttle.
In 1988, the world learned that the Soviet Union had built their own reusable spacecraft. Secretly developed over the course of more than a decade, it was designed as a direct response to the American Space Shuttle, which the Soviet Union believed to be hiding a military purpose. While its initial launch was a huge success, few of the people witnessing it would have guessed that it would also be the last. And while the American Space Shuttle would go on to make history, the Buran faded into obscurity. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, the program was abandoned entirely, and the gates to the hangar, once teeming with engineers, were closed for good, entombing the spaceship within the territory of the still active Baikonur Cosmodrome, the Russian gateway to space. I first went to Baikonur in 2019. Having long been fascinated with all things abandoned and all things Soviet, I was eager to see for myself what the Russians had built. Despite having the odds stacked against us, Rosa and Valentine and I managed to make our way across the inhospitable steppe of Kazakhstan, past security and into the hangar. However, atrocious weather conditions and arguably a lack of preparation meant our time in Baikonur was less than enjoyable. Furthermore, things took a turn for the worse when guards searched the building and our trip came to a premature end in a Russian police station. I was never able to let go of Baikonur, and so, 3 years later, I once again found myself in the city of Almaty, making my final preparations for a trek through the vast Kazakh steppe.
Først fløj jeg til Istanbul, og så fløj jeg til Almaty.
Føler vi sådan rimelig klar med alting. Så lige 2-3 timer søvn og så 12 timers køretur. Det skal nok blive godt. Picking up Rosa from the airport marked the beginning of our first day on the road through this country of great distances and emptiness. Leaving the city felt like going back in time. Jeg tror, vi er cirka halvvejs mellem Almaty og Kyslota. Så vi har kørt i hvad? 6 timer, mangler 6,5. Fedt. Det er hvad der er at sige lige nu. By nightfall, we reached our overnight halt in Kyslota, where, after more than 24 hours of transport, Rosa finally got the chance to stretch her legs.
Lækker.
Du kørte godt, ja. Du kørte simpelthen ikke.
Reasonably well rested, and with me having swapped my German watch for a Russian one, we set out for another 3 hours on this highway of potholes, contemplating what the next 2 to 3 days of our lives would bring.
Mens vi sidder her meget sådan komfortabelt og spiser chips, så er der nu 15 kilometer til vi drejer fra vejen og ud i ødemarken, hvor vi egentlig ikke rigtig må køre. Så jeg tror sådan, jeg er begyndt at kunne mærke lidt sådan krill og spænding, nervøsitet nu.
And so, we turned off the highway and into the steppe, a barren landscape filled with equal parts horses, camels, and reminders of the Cold War. Late in the afternoon, we reached the hiding spot for our car and the starting point of our long walk. A facility once used for testing missiles, now lying abandoned just outside of the area still controlled and patrolled by the Russian Federation, the no-go zone, which we would soon enter.
Oh yeah, boy! Sådan der!
Between us and the hangar containing Buran lay 35 kilometers of unforgiving steppe, and several active facilities, including a launch pad currently used for manned flights to the International Space Station. To avoid unwanted attention from the police, we would have to complete the entire stretch before the break of dawn. Not wanting to get lost in this featureless wilderness, I was being hysterical with my navigational devices. In these terms, the desert is more similar to ocean than land.
Kilometer tilbage. Så over halvvejs.
We were on course and making good progress. But as we approached the hangar, located inside the very heart of the cosmodrome, tension was rising. And despite only the planet of Jupiter being the brightest light in the sky on this moonless night, my fears of being spotted turned out to be very well founded. With only minutes to spare before sunlight would reveal our presence, we made our way into what has become known as the sarcophagus to the Buran program, the MZK hangar. And there they were, two abandoned spaceships gathering dust some 70 meters below our feet. The sheer scale of the building creating an atmosphere best described as similar to what can be found in ancient temples to long-lost religions. While the Buran on the outside looked very much like the American Space Shuttle, in reality the two were very different. Arguably, the Soviet engineers had built something even more advanced than its Western counterpart, capable of carrying heavier payloads, flying fully automated, and requiring less maintenance between launches. The technology was all homegrown. While the foremost Buran in here is merely a mock-up for ground tests, the aftmost is very real. Originally scheduled for a mission to the Mir space station in 1993, it was tragically close to being ready when the program was cancelled. Its name is Tækker, Russian for little bird. It was parked here in 1995, just a few days before I was born. Located less than 3 kilometers from the launch pad from which Yuri Gagarin left Earth to become the first man in space, it is the only Buran unit built for actual spaceflight to remain in its original condition. With the day coming to an end, and knowing that the Russian authorities still peep inside the hangar on a daily basis, we retreated to the rooftop for a supper consisting of white bread and horse meat, resting and taking in our final views of Baikonur before our long walk back. Having caught whatever little sleep we could on top of an elevator shaft, and with a 3-hour game of hide and seek with the police having delayed our exit from the hangar, we managed to escape the most critical areas just before sunrise. As the launch towers of the Cosmodrome became ever more distant behind us, and 48 hours of paranoia finally started to fade, we had only our legs, maps and willpower to make the 35-kilometer trek back to the missile test facility and the relative safety of our rented Russian Renault. 35 kilometers across this strange part of our planet. Strange because, while most people have heard of Cape Kennedy, from where the American Apollo mission set out to land men on the moon, it still staggers me to think just how forgotten the Baikonur Cosmodrome has become. This inhospitable slice of Russia, in the middle of Kazakhstan, soaked in decades of history of human achievement and disaster. First satellite, first animal, first man, first woman. They all took to the sky from here. The list of unmanned missions which flew from here is no less impressive, taking landers to the Moon, Mars and Venus. All this from a place which started out as a test range for Cold War weaponry, and is where the Soviet Union's moon program ended in a massive explosion. Where American astronauts and Iranian satellites have launched from the same exact slab of concrete, all strangely forgotten and belonging to a country which is now once again alienating itself from the rest of the world.
Fucking did it.
Tak for turen.
Så tak.
Først når jeg mærker mit skulder efter rygsækken, synes jeg.
Det har jeg mærket hele tiden.
watching. Since you made it to the end of the video, I figured I would tell you about my latest project. Have you ever wondered whether or not it's possible to buy a cheap motorcycle and ride it all the way from Copenhagen in Denmark to Cape Town in South Africa? I found myself wondering that. So I have bought a Honda CB500 from 2001, and I am now in the process of riding it all the way through the African continent. So basically, I think you should go and subscribe to my new channel. It's called Copenhagen to Cape Town, hopefully. Because, well, I'm a lot more active on there than I am on this channel. Anyway, yeah. Thanks for watching. Good night.